Good morning or afternoon. Those of you on the East Coast, thank you all for your patience as we work through the normal Zoom meeting technical issues. Past that, thank you for joining today's industry leadership panel. My name is Miles Feinberg, and I am the co-moderator today from Synoptek. My one commercial message is we're the leading IT management firm in the US. There it is. I'm done. No more commercial messages from me. Our panelists today represent mid-market business in manufacturing that were and are essential businesses. And I think you're going to find the leadership during these times pretty insightful, informative, and I believe inspiring. I'm anxious to dive in, but before our panelists introduce themselves, I'm going to set the ground rules how this session is going to work. Everyone except for the moderators and the panelists is going to be on mute. Our staff will be looking at any questions that you submit to the chat window, and we'll either decide they're relevant, want to ask those right away, or save them to the end. If time doesn't allow, if we have that many, we'll provide a written response after. We aim to complete this within 45 minutes, about an hour max. Before our panelists introduce themselves, my moderator today is Frank Lowry from Nayo Technologies. Frank, why don't you say hello, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Frank Lowry with Nayo Technologies. We're a leading IFS ERP provider, and the panelists today are some of our customers who use our managed services offerings for IFS.
Awesome, thanks, Frank. All right, so I want to have the panelists introduce themselves, and then after that, Frank, you can launch into some questions that we're interested in hearing the answers to. From each of the panelists, your name, the organization you work for, what you do there, what the organization does, why you were bold enough to actually accept this. You don't have to actually answer that one, but do answer maybe a sentence or two about, to set the stage around how COVID affected your industry, your business specifically, I mean. All right, so if you can remember all that, I'll start with you, Wayne.
I'm Wayne Elliott. I'm the CFO of Shapes Precision Manufacturing in Palm Bay, Florida. We're about an hour and a half east of Orlando on the coast. And we're primarily a defense contractor specializing in machining and fabrication. And we are one of those essential businesses the Pentagon wouldn't let us shut down. So we have not missed a day of work, and we've not had a COVID-19 issue until about 5 minutes before this meeting, when I was notified that a member of our management team tested positive. So I'm trying to deal with that as we're talking.
All right. That's unfortunate for the management team there. Wayne, thanks. Tom, why don't you go next?
Tom Murphy with McGean. We're a specialty chemical manufacturer. I'm a global manager of MIS. I oversee all the systems and hardware. COVID's been interesting for us. We've primarily, everybody's working in the office, so nobody was mobilized. It was a bit of an interesting few weeks getting everything set up for it. Fortunately, we haven't had anybody with COVID issues at this point. A couple scares, but it's been, for the most part, business as usual for us.
Great, great. All right, but not least, Raphael.
Hello, everybody. Rafael Zavala, Director of IT for Agility Fuel Solutions. What we do, we manufacture and install fueling solutions for alternative fuel vehicles in the medium-duty space. So these are things like step vans, buses, box trucks, and alternative fuels, because we specialize in natural gas, liquefied natural gas, propane, and EV solutions, which is a new and upcoming thing that we're doing.
Great. Well, thanks, Raphael. So I'm going to kick us off with kind of one of the first questions here, and this is to everyone on the call. So what were your unique challenges in continuing the operations based on you being an essential business? I'll just open it up to the whole panel.
Frank, if I may.
Yeah.
You know, what was kind of interesting and unique is sometimes as a director of IT, you know, you design your programs around supporting people inside the office. And of course, this was something that kind of expanded the scope, right, overnight, literally overnight. So those were some of the challenges, just being able to, you know, react to the demand of folks gaining access remotely via VPN or another medium into our network, and being able to support them as well, right, from a home office. That was certainly something that was very challenging. And the one thing, you know, we could design all these programs and have the technology available, but there are soft things that you also need to support, and that's in the areas of keeping things like HR going. While, you know, so these HR representatives are working from home, how do you still support the folks that have to work in these factories and you know, in the lines and so what have you? Because people still need to be disciplined. People still have 401k questions and that kind of stuff. So that was a unique in its sense, what we had to do there. And of course, you know, the overall home computing and networking security, establish some guidelines for that, you know. So that was kind of unique in the sense to what we had to undergo here.
How about you, Tom?
And our organization, with the exception of sales and IT, was really office based. So we knew a couple weeks going in, you know, prior to the shutdown in Ohio, that we needed to do something, and we were able to start mobilizing the workforce through, you know, some new hardware acquisition, and you know, we really needed to take a look at our infrastructure and how people were going to connect. So, you know, a lot of changes there, but you know, within a couple weeks, we were able to get 90% of the organization up and running remotely, which was a bit of a challenge, but you know, a good exercise in continuity.
That's great. So Wayne, how about you?
Well, you know, at first when COVID hit, you know, we're in Hurricane Alley here. We do hurricanes very well here. We had no idea what to do with the pandemic. And, you know, the issues were for us, employees, suppliers, and our managed services through Synoptek and Nayo. We had to make sure that they were up and running. And then we had to answer employees' questions. And as I said earlier, we didn't have a down day. We let our employees know up front if they had any issues and they felt they had to stay at home. We told them, stay at home. Don't worry about getting paid. We'll pay you. And we had a few people that did that. For the most part, people came to work every day. And, you know, obviously we kept it as safe and as clean as we possibly can. And then we had the issue with suppliers. You know, if a supplier shuts down and doesn't ship you raw materials, you have a problem. And we had one problem with a casting house out in San Francisco when San Francisco was a big issue. And San Francisco was basically shut down. And so since we're a defense contractor, and this particular contract was through Pratt Whitney, and for engine parts for the F-35, we had them go to the Pentagon, and Pentagon issued them an order, the same order they issued to us, and they physically went out to the plant, told management to go back to the office and get your people there, and they had to start shipping us product, you know, when their employees didn't want to be in that business. And ironically, they've been shipping more products since the pandemic than they've ever shipped us before. But, you know, you just have unique issues. And in the middle of this, we were upgrading from 9 to 10.4 and putting everything into the clouds right in the middle of a pandemic. And, you know, with the help of everybody, a lot of the people on the panel here, you know, Miles and Frank, we successfully pulled that off. So it's an issue that there isn't a cookie cutter approach. You just have to take it as it comes.
That's some good advice.
So Wayne, I want to kind of maybe pivot for the other folks here off of what you said here about right in the middle of a pandemic, moving workload to the cloud, and really kind of think more broadly about maybe what some of the pivots in IT team priorities that were enacted. And maybe Raphael, maybe you could share a little bit on that. Raphael, you're on mute.
Oops, sorry.
No worries.
Rookie mistake there. We were lucky in a sense that there were some projects that I just completed. Upgrading our ERP, having a managed service provider around that area. We just finished refreshing our technology around our company with having a standardized computer, that kind of stuff. So in a sense, we were kind of prepared to act with mobility quickly. So the only pivots that weren't in the schedule, if you will, is installing something like virtual phones, because people still need to call, do business calls remotely. So figuring out what kind of a virtual phone to use. We all of a sudden, as an IT organization, had to figure out how we're going to ship monitors, computers, tablets, and good luck trying to get a headset even today, right? So that's sort of like, we were in this tactical stage for approximately 2 weeks at the beginning of the order. But other than that, I was kind of lucky that the technology was there, that we kind of use cloud-friendly applications, and so there was a minimal disruption to the workforce. If there was disruption, it was more because of the physical distance from the office employees to the floor shop employees. One of the good things that came out of it is, we were scrambling for monitors and this kind of thing, is that we were able to refurbish some old equipment. And we actually brought some tablets that we had some surplus tablets that needed a little TLC. And we were able to bring them up to a current operating system and what have you. And we were able to make a donation to one of our local schools to enable, some kids to be able to have that distance learning here around the corner here. So that was one of the good things that came out of the exercise. But that's all I have to share there.
Raphael, sounds really good. So it sounds like maybe you were 80 to 90% ready for having a mobile workforce, the virtual phones, but otherwise a lot of the work that you did and have been doing prepared you pretty well.
Yeah, that's correct. And so some people have actually, been very complimentary of that. But I said, I don't know if it was a timing of everything, but it certainly helps to have, the leadership team understand of an IT strategy, and appreciation for the fundamentals, standardization in technology. Consolidation of services, et cetera, those fundamentals that we kind of strived for. So that certainly helped out a lot here.
Super. Tom?
I'm going to echo a little bit of what Raphael had said. We had a strategy that we put in place that management was really behind us 100%. They knew that we needed to follow through with some significant changes in a short period of time to keep operations going. We were already in the beginning stages of a large hardware refresh, so a lot of those requisitions were already out. We'd started rolling out PCs and bought more laptops to fill in some of those gaps. With that, also a repurpose of equipment. Once we got the old units in, we looked to upgrade those in any situation that we could. The other challenge that we had, which was also on the horizon for our strategy, was connectivity. And we'd recently rolled out a new firewall, and we're in the process of moving some of our users over to it. In the past, it was very limited who could access our networks remotely. And of course, now in this environment, it was a huge paradigm shift to what we were used to. So making some concessions to how we let people connect, whether it be a corporate owned device or if we were going to allow them to come in through a personal device. What did that look like, and how can we best serve the needs of our end users to maintain the integrity of what they do on a daily basis.
So Tom, do you see yourself making any continuing changes, a movement to the cloud, or anything else as a result?
Well, yeah, we're continuing to look at changes into the cloud. We're lucky that our ERP system is hosted, and we've got partners that we like, Nayo and Synoptek, and our phone system also is hosted. In some areas, I do prefer to have some of that technology in-house rather than outsourced, but we're leveraging what we can that would make sense for the business.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the underlying tones of this are, we're starting to roll in our global entities as well. So anything that we put in place now, we also have to think about, for the future with our other locations.
At risk of having Tom hog the session, I do have a curiosity. You mentioned bringing your own device and some policy decisions. Can you share what change, if any, you made there?
Well, we yes, in some instances we had people connect with their personal laptops, so we'd look at allowing them to RDP into their work PC. Just as a short time stopgap. In the interim of that, we did a full scan on their system and made sure that antivirus was up to date, and kind of gave it our blessing before we allowed any connectivity to it. The network is partitioned off pretty well, so really all that they can get to are a couple critical elements. So we weren't too worried about the security measures that we have in place with letting them come in like that. But again, we had to put our hands on it to give them the blessing.
Makes sense. So you got to do what you got to do. Hey, Wayne, this next question is for you. So once the worst is over here, what shifts in strategy and priority do you think need to occur? Maybe for Shapes itself or more broadly?
Well, first, I'm glad that you think it's almost over. I hope you're 100% correct.
Well, I didn't say it is almost over. I said once the worst is over. There's no forecast from me. Go on. I'm sorry.
I lost you there at the end. One of the issues, obviously, we're having here is phone system issues. We didn't expect this, but we're living with it, trying to get it fixed. And Synoptek's working day and night trying to help us get that fixed. But the main thing that we take out of this is what we were striving for probably starting a year ago, is we don't want to be in the IT business. And that's not good for everybody, but it was good for us. So we have 3 managed services that work for us, Nayo, Synoptek, and a local one here to take care of everything within our 4 walls. And we want to expand on that. We want our managed services to help us along and make suggestions where we can't. We do not have an IT presence within our 4 walls, nor do we want one. And it really has worked out great, because instead of me hiring 1 or 2 IT people here, I probably have several hundred within our managed services, very bright people. And we rely on them to get us to where we are right now. But now we're putting more, not pressure, but more opportunities for them to take us even to the next level, because our business is expanding dramatically and we need that input, and we're getting it. The pandemic here was, we all have our own challenges with the pandemic, and yes, I hope we're through it pretty soon. But from a hardware and a network perspective, I think we're in very good shape, because the other added issue that we have, we're an ITAR facility. So when it comes to access from outside, we have to be extremely, extremely careful. And our partners have helped us along that way.
Well, thanks, Wayne. So I'm going to pivot over to kind of business continuity plans. And so Tom, can you share, did you have a pre-COVID business continuity plan that you kind of enabled, or did you have to maybe change one if you had one? Can you maybe explain that a little bit?
We were working through a lot of that. We had a large shift in with our ERP system going up to the cloud a few years ago. So it's been a journey through the organization to change the way that we do things. So in terms of the continuity, I think a lot of it we'd already done before in terms of disaster recovery and access and how we plan for risk and uncertain events. So there wasn't a huge change in it, but we did have a shift in how we looked at connectivity and redundancy. So I think we fixed the connectivity component of it internally. And then as far as redundancy, that's something that we're going to address in more detail next year.
Okay. Yeah, what I've seen in my past experiences, usually the IT side has everything pretty squared away, but sometimes like the HR policies have to catch up. Did you see any of that?
Not as much.
Okay.
No, I mean, and for most of the business units that we've got, it's been business as usual.
Good.
All right, before I switch gears, if anyone else wants to add any 2 cents, chime in. All right. All right, so I'm going to ask everyone this question here, and Wayne, we'll start with you. So if you had a time machine and now you could go back 12 months, what would you have done differently knowing what you know now? And someone else answered this very wisely. They would have bought Zoom stock. So you can't choose that answer. We all would have.
Well, going back 12 months ago, the things I would do differently, that's a very tough question. Within the company here, I would have liked to have more HR plans in effect for what ifs, because we were running on the fly here at the start of this. And, you don't want to do for one class of employee if you don't do it for the other. So I probably would have looked into standardizing some HR. Now, what we did with employees was very good. I mean, I think we were ahead of the curve. And so no employee here at any point thought that they couldn't stay home and still get paid. We had a few people that did that, but for the most part, people wanted to come to work, but then they had issues at home with family members not being able to work, and issues with child care, daycare, schooling. And we worked with every single person, and we always saw that they got a full paycheck. And this was before the government came out with their CARE Act. And then the other thing that we did, which everybody liked, we picked a day, and nobody knew this. We gave everybody a week's pay with nothing in return. So I think we have gotten some extra loyalty out of this. And the other thing that we tried to do and are doing successfully is during this pandemic, go after more business. A lot of companies have had a tough time doing that, but that's something we did, and we're actively doing it as we speak. And we're actually building the company during the pandemic. So tough to answer your question, Miles, but that's some of the things I would do.
Wayne, that's really so. I love the HR component. Like knowing what you know now, you would have strengthened HR. I love the yes for employees, and I like the stance of we saw this as an opportunity to go on the offensive and grow the business rather than just retreat and go on the defensive. So I love hearing that. Raphael, what would you do with your time machine? You're all in all now going back 12 months.
My first answer was actually your answer. Go back and buy some stock in key key markets. But I think, of course, there would have been a reprioritization of our projects. So they were more meaningful to what we're how we had to react during these past few months. And of course, who was to predict that there'll be a shortage of toilet paper and computers, for a month or two? So certainly, stock up on computing devices and things that you could use in a home office situation. Most of my current workload or design on our projects, had that assumption that things are going to operate as they are for another year, right? So it's hard to say, well, upgrading the network or expanding our VPN throughput is key today, because what we had back then is VPN throughput was for a stop measure, or for the 1 or 3 employees that need to work from home that day, or the sales guys that are traveling, right? Not to have half of the company on VPN. So if I had a crystal ball, it only kind of helps sell the decision, right? Sell that capital a year back, right? And make those hard decisions on what to invest in. Yeah, that would certainly be my my time machine, kind of what I would do with it.
Yeah, that's good. Tom?
I think overall we were in a pretty good place with when this came about. But the one thing that I really would have done was pushed harder for mobilization of our key individuals. I think that would have gotten us further ahead with being able to get people set up quickly and just better planning from that respect, and just a paradigm shift in the way the organization thinks.
Great. So Raphael, I'm gonna ask you more of an executive team question. So have you had to enlighten or educate the executive team through all of this around the value of technology?
Yes, or kind of enforce that the decisions that we made as a team a year ago were good decisions. So going towards cloud computing, friendly applications, going towards a virtual or a managed help desk, and having an MSP for ERP, and working with partners who kind of understand business priorities. It was very key. So I took the opportunity to kind of reinforce that, hey, this is what we did good in the last year, and it helped us tremendously. And unfortunately, I had to share some bad stories as well. I mean, I'm hearing good stories, from Tom and Wayne here, and from the rest of the panel. But my God, I belong I belong in a local SoCal CIO group, and some people were not as fortunate, and they were scrambling for PCs. They still had towers. They didn't have VPN connectivity, because again, the assumption is, hey, business is as usual. What could go wrong? So yeah, so I kind of use that also to reinforce that we made some really, really good decisions. One of the other things that we did here was, since our office employees are not in the plants or in some of our headquarter office or assembly plants, we actually took the opportunity to do some of those back burner items, like, hey, we need to fix our routing on our network, that kind of stuff. Hey, well, there's nobody there. What could it hurt, right? So we're doing those activities now, and of course now we're going to be able to decommission some deprecated circuits that we have out there that, before my time, what the heck was this stuff doing here? It made sense 6 years ago. It doesn't make sense now. So we're doing a lot of housekeeping, taking the opportunity to do that, while folks like Synoptek and Nayo help us out with the bigger burning day-to-day issues. My team kind of focus on the housekeeping items.
So a quick follow-up too for you, because I think you'd have really unique insight into this. Do you see a day when everyone's back in the office working like pre-COVID, or do you see more of a hybrid approach where more people are going to work at home in the future?
Yeah, so the HR team, the leadership team in general has been very communicative with our user base, and we're sending out surveys and seeing how things are, and et cetera, and we're finding that in some areas we're actually more productive now, and unfortunately, because now you have to manage to output, right? So there's more parameters in place now for that output, to capture that output. So things are have a little more structure. When are we coming back to the office? Everything that the guidelines that we're designing now have an assumption that we're going to be like this for a while. There are some, well, when you really want to make change, when you really want to make a value add change, it's never happened from a home, right? So we're kind of thinking, we do have to get people back into the office at some point, and how would that look? So we're looking and how many people fit in a conference room? Do we bring in departments as needed, right? So Mondays is marketing, Tuesdays is accounting, that kind of thing, with social distancing guidelines within the floor here, the office floor. But from the surveys that we've taken, and the feedback we received, people are not feeling comfortable coming back in if there's not some sort of an antidote for the or a vaccine for this flu. People are still kind of wary about that. And of course, we're very super sensitive to the situations at home, right? The schools aren't open, so the kids are home. Healthcare is not open, so the kids are at home. So we're really sensitive to that, and work around those areas. But it still looks like we're going to be in the situation for, gosh, at least towards November, December. And we'll probably take another survey then. But I know as much as you guys know, and situations change on a daily basis, right?
Yes, it does.
Hey, Frank, those were two really, really good questions about, enlightening your executive team differently. And also, you guys are in manufacturing. You have to support the production floor. So it's not an option of letting everybody work from home. There is a support function. So if anyone else, Tom or Wayne, want to talk about any of those other topics when we move in, I thought those were really good questions.
Well, Miles, as far as the executive team, one thing that we all have gotten out of this is that we are completely reliable on our ERP system and our network to keep that up and running. As I said earlier, we went live on an upgrade from the 9 to 10.4 on June the 1st. And we're also moving everything to the clouds that weekend as well. And I can tell you, many of us were holding our breath, and everything went well. And we came out of it a better company. But we now know that we have to make sure that through our partners, we have everything up and running and backed up, and redundancy, and that is our lifeline. If we lose it, our company shuts down. And as an executive, as a management team, we all understand that now, and we discuss it very frequently. And you know, I'm pleased that everyone's getting involved in that.
That's great, Wayne. Tom, did you want to add anything about enlightening the executive team or working
I think,
from home?
you know,
while supporting?
overall, our executive team was behind us 100% with what we needed to do to get things done. They've been excellent with communication on their end with, you know, how we need to proceed. For example, all of our production team in the plants and the warehouses, they were pretty constant throughout this, in-house every day and working. And we were fortunate to be very busy February, March, April. So business as usual very much. Now it's slowed down a little bit. And we're working on some other proactive projects, kind of cleaning house and getting things up to date. Also starting to look at bringing in other departments in slowly. Right? So accounting has been staggered throughout this process. They found it was easier to come in on certain days and just for their workflow to get things done. A lot of our engineers are in the office now full-time, as well as QC. So slowly we're starting to come back, but you know, when we look at sales, marketing, customer service, and some of the other departments, you know, it's going to be really a wait and see, with an option to, you know, start to come in if you want, if you feel comfortable, but you know, we're gonna still support you until the time is right.
Tom, let's stay on you. So do you think of this as a time to kind of minimize and on one hand just keep the lights on, or maybe on the other hand to accelerate your digital strategy, beat out the competition when demand signals increase? I mean, how are you thinking about this?
I actually, you know, this was a great opportunity to, you know, put the throttle down and really get where we wanted to go. So at this point now, what, 7 months, almost 7 months into 2020, we're finished with our 2021 rollout plan. And so we just accelerated all the hardware rollout that we could. And we're looking at upgrading our WAN and the infrastructure, and really looking at some type of cost savings, but any savings that we're getting is being reinvested. So, you know, it's a give and take, but you know, it was really a good way to move forward, and we're going to be better coming out of this.
Great to hear.
Yeah. So to add, you know, coming better out of this, you know, has there been a focus, and this question is to everyone on the panel, on operational efficiencies, you know, taking some of this downtime to focus on maybe your manufacturing processes or any other areas to improve efficiencies within your organizations? So Wayne, do you want to take that first?
Well, you know, as far as efficiencies, you know, when this thing hit, we didn't lose any business, but a lot of the commercial aerospace business was pushed back. So into next year. So backlog remained the same. It's just we have less to produce this year. So the tendency is efficiencies go down during that period, and we understand that. People, you know, usually work to the backlog that they see in back of them. So we had X number of people that, you know, we could have laid off. You know, we would have every right to lay them off, but we didn't. So we're finding a lot of maintenance things for them to work on during this period. But we also have some of our engineering staff now split into two areas. On our current products, how can we become more efficient? And we're looking at that actively. But then on the other half, you know, we have the pedal to the metal. We are looking for new business. And so many of our engineers are working with new customers or existing customers where we can do new product for them. just out of the blue, just last week, SpaceX came in here with a huge product rollout for us in the near term too. So we're actively looking for that business, but we also are keeping our employees as much as possible actively employed.
That's great news. So,
okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say we're at a quarter of the hour. Maybe we take an audience question and then wrap it up. Unless, Frank, you wanted to ask something else before then.
No, it's all yours.
All right. So this could be for anyone here, but this whole coronavirus, it dramatically affected the world, but it's sped up so many trends of adoption, or in some cases, disintegration of industries that were already failing. It accelerated things. And one of those things that's been suggested that I'm adding to the question here as a preface, been accelerated is the change in leadership roles, a change of the role of the CIO. So with that preface, do any of you see your role changing in some material ways as a result of recent events? More being expected of you, or different things? If anyone, maybe Raphael.
Sure, Miles. So anytime there's a disruption with an organization, I get a call, right? Whether it be the wrong,
you get the call.
Yeah, whether a shipping label was the wrong shipping label, anyway, I get the call. And certainly, with having remote employees and trying to figure out how they were going to be impacted, I got that call, right, to kind of give my feedback on that. So I kind of took it upon myself early on to initiate that culture where, hey, we're still here for you. So as soon as those people were working remotely, kind of reach out to them, with a warm, fuzzy kind of email, or, hey, I'm still here and I want to hear about your issues and I want to make sure that everything's being resolved. And kind of, hey, by the way, these are some articles from HBR about how to work from home a little bit better and being able to balance your work life and everything that's going on. So, and so just being very engaged, being super engaged also with the Corona response team. So I'm on that panel as well here for the organization, and in anywhere, shape or form that I could help, I certainly I step in and take that challenge. So the role of the leadership on technology teams has certainly changed, where IT is almost like a utility, and they're looking for your guidance now with the business. They're asking you hard questions. Well, what do you think? What do you think of this process, or how do you think we could be a little bit more efficient in this area? Which is great, right? So to that sense, that's sort of like how I've seen it evolving.
That's excellent, Raphael. I think it's really interesting how more business-aligned input from CIOs is being made demanded. It sounds like you're right there with that. If anyone else wants to answer, Tom or Wayne, or just add anything that they didn't get to contribute before we wrap it up, this would be your time to chime in.
Well, I think now, what do you learn for the future is, something you knew in the past. Your customer is king. You always have to be there for their customer, even if you don't like what they're telling you. You have to ship on time, quality product, and you expect to get paid on time for that service. But as your customers are going through issues, you really have to work for them and with them. And they assume that your infrastructure is in place and you're taking care of your employees, which you have to do, but you have to take care of your customers as well.
From our position, I see my department having more of an active voice in the organization and in the direction that we need to go from a technology standpoint. That said, I prescribe that business should always drive technology, but we could be proactive, make sure we're in front of our user base, and efficiently keeping the networks running and people working, and finding efficiencies where we can.
Couldn't agree more, Tom. Business should always drive technology. We're at the end of our time. These were really great insights, guys. A huge thank you to our leadership panelists, Tom Murphy, Rafael Zavala, Wayne Elliott, Larry, for co-monitoring here. Thank you for all your time and inspiration to us. Thank you, Tiffany, for making this entire a reality. And thank you to our visitors for attending today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Miles.